Welcome to my channel, Maze's Life, where I'm terrible at managing money, but trying to get better. So with today's video, I wanted to talk about where I'm at with my debt-free journey. I am about a little over 2 years in, and I have just, recently hit my first down. I feel like there's a lot of ups and downs with paying off debt and trying to change your habits and set new financial boundaries. And the first year was easy. Compared to my previous times, I have stated before that I tried to pay off my debt previously, and I always fail every March when my birthday hits. But I also always try in January. This time around, I started in September. And that's just because of the church that I was attending having a Dave Ramsey course that started in September, end of September. But today I just wanted to talk about, where I'm at with my mindset, with the numbers, with the mistakes and the lessons that I've learned, and even some of the tips that I've gathered from you all in the comments. So if that's something that you would enjoy, please stick around. So a little bit about my debt journey. So I've been in debt technically since I was 19. I'm 28 now, but only the past 2.5 years I have been able to actively pay off debt for more than the 3 months that I used to always pay off debt. It wasn't gazelle intense. There were mistakes made, especially with my credit card spending. There's still mistakes that are being made with my credit card spending. But unlike the previous times, this time I was trying. I got a roommate, I got a second job. I was trying to curb my spending habits, some voluntarily, but some out of necessity. Such as I used to reward myself for going into the office to work. I can work from home, but some days I chose to work in the office to help out my team when I was a tax collector, just by, reviewing the mail and such. And to reward myself, I would go out to eat for lunch, and that would always be a $10, $15 lunch in downtown. But then one day I was chased for probably half a block by some man. I don't know if he was homeless or just mentally ill, but he chased me for half a block, yelling and screaming at me, different profanities about my body. And that was the last time I ate out for lunch while I was a tax collector. So, that's an example of how some of my spending was curbed out of necessity. Even though you would think the necessity would be, oh, you need to pay your bills, but no. Paying my bills wasn't always the biggest motivator. So I wanted to touch on why I wanted to pay off debt. I had taken the Dave Ramsey courses in September 2023, but I had also taken Dave Ramsey courses in high school. And it did work, the Dave Ramsey courses, for a while. Like I said, I had debt since I was 19, but I was always able to pay off that debt, pay off the credit cards, and I was still messing around with the debt. I would get a loan, a personal loan for like $500 and pay it off the next month. I was just trying to learn about money and debt and finances by experimenting. So I still really do, like that I took that course. I learned a lot from the Dave Ramsey High School course, but the reason why I wanted to pay off debt was because everyone around me was buying a house, and I could not get qualified to buy a house. Even though I made good money, I think at the time in 2020, I think I made $55,000 a year. I could not get approved for a loan because of how high my debt to income ratio was. So I got this FOMO, if you will, this fear of missing out, while other people who made less money than me were out buying a house. I couldn't, and I'm living in this Section 8 housing in the ghetto because of all the debt that I have. And granted, I accumulated that debt thinking that it was normal. In Dave Ramsey's courses, he's always talking about how debt is normal, so be weird. Well, then I was like, you know what? Let me just be normal. You know, I have student loans. It's just a little bit. I think I graduated with $11,870 worth of student loans. I was like, that's not a lot. You always hear about people having hundreds of thousands of dollars of student loans. Let me just have a little bit of student loans. They'll get, dismissed. Biden will pass something. I don't have to pay him back. Let me just get a little bit of credit card debt. I'll just make the minimum payments. That's fine. At least I get to enjoy myself, enjoy my life. Why not? That's what I would tell myself, just because I wanted to live a certain lifestyle. Now, this lifestyle was brought on by a couple things. So I had a fully paid off car, and then in July, I believe 2020, the engine stopped working or something in it, and I need to buy a new car. And a friend convinced me that I needed to buy this super nice brand new car at the dealership, and I needed to get all these extended warranties. And I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, that's what I'll do. When I bought my first car, I did so much research. I got a great deal. I haggled the price, and then this friend at the time, we're no longer friends for different reasons, just with our values and our morals changing. I feel like they screwed me over more than like a car salesman, because the car salesman didn't say anything. He was like, oh yeah, do what she says. Yeah, that's good. And I got all this stuff that I did not need in this expensive car because, my friend told me to, and I listened when I shouldn't have. I didn't do any research. I was just persuaded into buying the car that I have, and I do like the car that I have. It's served me well. I haven't had any issues. It's been broken into several times, so because of where I live, they break into it when it's clean because they like to sleep in it. It's a Hyundai Kona. It's like a small compact SUV. It's the same size as a sedan, but it's an SUV. And they like to sleep in it, so now I have to keep my car extremely dirty, like filled with junk, because then they won't break into it. Then in September 2020, so just a couple months later, I hurt my back extremely badly. I talked about this before. I had like $100,000 in medical debt, and I just wanted to, I was at a point where I was like, I have all this medical debt, I have the student loans, I have this car loans. After spending 5 years in school, and I graduated with next to no debt in my mind. I graduated, less than $12,000 worth of debt. And just 6 months after I graduated, I now had over $100,000 worth of debt. And I just felt like it was all for nothing. And then it was COVID, and I had slipped 2 discs, and there ended up being some blood spotting in my spine. And I was just like, you know what if this is it? This is it. Like, why don't I just treat myself? And I treated myself to within, I'm going to say, it was in about a year, I accumulated about $85,000 worth of debt just in 1 year of the car. The medical debt ended up getting covered by my insurance. They covered everything but $150. So yeah, $100,000 to $150,000. Yeah, I was very thankful. Different trips, food. I would spend money for my friends to go out, for me to go out, all these different things. even friends to go on trips. So that is kind of like how I just developed this mentality, and how I ended up getting just so much debt was it just in that 1 year. It kind of trickled on for 2 years, but this 1 year period, I had a dog who I would only feed her cooked steak. I was like, she has the best life. All these things I just wasted my money on. Bought an apartment downtown, and I then had to downsize and downgrade my lifestyle, and that was also an adjustment. That downgrading and downsizing started in October of 2022, so that's why you kind of still see it in the beginning of my debt confessions and my debt-free journey of still making these mistakes, is because I was still, even though I developed those habits in just a year and a half, it's taken a whole lot longer to get rid of those habits. And now, even though my spending is a lot better than what it was, inflation kind of like was like, well, you tried. I'm like, great, thanks so much. All right, and then when I started to pay off my debt, I've already talked about this before, so I'm not going to get too much into it, but the first thing I noticed was all of the interest that I was paying, so I needed to lower my interest. I'd send $200 to a debt, and only $50 would go down from my balance. And I was seriously having 60, 70, 75% of my minimum payments go towards interest because of such high balances on my credit cards that I had. I think I had a dozen credit cards at one point, more than what I show in my debt confessions video. I had several more than that. I had Southwest Airlines, another Chase card. Technically Southwest is Chase. I've had credit cards with different banks and different credit unions and whatnot, but I made a spreadsheet so I could track the whole picture. And after a year, that's when I learned that, okay, tracking the whole picture is great. Now I need to get more detailed. And that is why on my monthly budget, you'll see that I have that separate line item for expenses that go towards the interest, and not just the expenses that go towards my debt. And I just wanted to touch on, because I've talked about how, friends can be expensive, and I just wanted to iterate that my friends have never, well, at least my current friends, other than the friend that convinced me to buy a car that I didn't need, and she didn't even really push me. She was just saying this was a better car. Like, there wasn't like any bullying, I guess, if that's a word to say, but they never really pressured me into spending the way that I did. It was almost always me. I had the bad habits of spending money on dinner, trips, and then I like to, I guess my love language is gifts. So I like to give my friends dinner. I like to give my friends drinks. I like to give my friends trips, even out of the country. I had a friend, she'd never been on a plane, so I booked plane tickets that very next day, $2,000 to go several states over. That's what I mean by I would overspend. And that's also what I mean by my friends, they never pressure me. She just mentioned it casually. Oh, I've never been on a plane. I'm like, well, let's go tomorrow. Don't worry about it. I'll cover it. And I just wanted to make that clarification. Like, that was my mindset, and my friends, they're not really to blame. They enjoyed my spending, but they weren't to blame. So when I finally froze my lifestyle and I started focusing on debt, it was a big change, because it also changed the way that I thought that people viewed me. I wanted to live this lifestyle, flaunt this lifestyle, but I wasn't doing it to be better than anyone. It was always like, oh, this is my friend. She deserves nice things. Oh, this is me. I deserve nice things. And when I couldn't do that anymore, because I never could have in the first place, it did take a little bit of a blow that I couldn't, just have a certain lifestyle. And then, after always talking about how I wanted to buy a house, and I wanted to buy a house by a certain time, then I couldn't because of all my debt. So now I'm like, okay, I'm 2.5 years in. What did I learn? I learned I did everything wrong. Yeah, it's one of those things where, yeah, if I could go back, I would change certain things, but you can't go back. And I am where I am. But it's good to look back and kind of remember these feelings, remember why I started this debt journey. Because if you watched my debt confessions from August and September of this year, 2025, you would know that I had a very much like life isn't fair kind of moment that lasted several months, because the peers, so I get one commenter pointed out that they're not really my peers. Just because they're my age doesn't mean they're my peers, but they were able to live a lifestyle that I wanted to live, spending a whole bunch of money, $1,000 in one night on drinks and food, like different treats and snacks. We were at a party, and that used to be me. And I was like, wow, like they're spending a lot of money. And I wouldn't do that. And then I go home and I reflect the next couple of days. I was like, oh, I wish I could do that. And I was getting this FOMO, this fear of missing out. And so making videos like this and the comment section as well, just reminding me like how I got in this situation in the first place. So that way I don't end up back in this same spot again a couple months later. And then also, I had totally forgot why I started paying off debt. I was just like, well, I gotta pay off debt. I forgot that I wanted to buy a house. I still want to buy a house, but I forgot that I don't qualify. So when I was thinking about this video, like what I was gonna say, I was like, all right, yes, I need to pay off debt so I can buy a house. That sounds so childish and juvenile, but I really forgot. I was just 2.5 years in, almost just chugging along, paying off debt, working 2-3 jobs, going to school, not being able to partake in the things that everybody else gets to partake in, and forgetting why. And not necessarily forgetting why I got into debt, but then why I wanted to get out. So, all right, that is why I have $72,000 worth of debt. That's why I'm paying off $72,000 worth of debt. That's sort of kind of what having all that debt taught me about money and about life. I like to say it taught me discipline, but then I forget my discipline. But I don't know what it taught me. It taught me not to be stupid, but I don't, I feel like that's such a basic answer. Like, I feel like it should be more philosophical. Like, it taught me discipline, it taught me gratitude, but it just taught me not to be stupid anymore. All right, well, thank you for sticking around. If you did, to the end of this video, you're gonna see more videos of me talking about my financial journey, but also sharing different parts of my life and what I'm doing today and tomorrow, and in some cases yesterday. But if you like the video, please subscribe, please like, please leave a comment down below if you would like, especially if you have any advice for me with my financial journey. That would be very helpful. I do learn and I do like take notes. Whenever people leave comments, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a great thing. I should definitely do that. That's some great advice. But yeah, other than that, my next video will be out tomorrow. So thank you so much for watching. And until then, I'll see you next one. Bye-bye.